Seems like every week I just have a visitor. It's one of the cats. And today it's Punk. Hey, Punky. She's most of the time she's like sitting on the table or like sitting over there trying to bother me. But Punky, are you excited about our book today? It's hard to tell if she's excited or not. These are our choices for tonight. Can't go wrong with a good Berenstain Bears book, but tonight our book is Miss Nelson is Missing. Yay. Well, if you know, the votes were definitely in favor of Miss Nelson, but the biggest fan that you'll hear out of this story is my mom. My mom, who is whooping nearby. Yes, she loves Miss Nelson, and she introduced me to Miss Nelson. So we're just bringing all the love in for Miss Nelson today. This is a great book. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Miss Nelson is Missing by Harry Allard and James Marshall. The kids in room 207 were misbehaving. Again. Spitballs stuck to the ceiling. Paper planes whizzed through the air. They were the worst behaved class in the whole school. Well, dang. Now settle down, said Miss Nelson in a sweet voice. But the class would not settle down. They whispered and giggled. They squirmed and made faces. They were even rude during story hour. Not cool, kids. And they always refused to do their lessons. Something will have to be done, said Miss Nelson. The next morning, Miss Nelson did not come to school. Wow, yelled the kids. Now we can really act up. They began to make more spitballs and paper planes. Today, let's just be terrible. Not so fast, hissed an unpleasant voice. A woman in an ugly black dress stood before them. I am your new teacher, Miss Viola Swamp. And she rapped the desk with her ruler. Where's Miss Nelson? Asked the kids. Never mind that, snapped Miss Swamp. Open those arithmetic books. Miss Nelson's kids did as they were told. When I was a kid, I totally thought that she looked like the Wicked Witch of the West. Because she totally does. They could see that Miss Swamp was a real witch. She meant business. Right away, she put them to work. And she loaded them down with homework. Whew. Oh, these books. I love these books titles. There's Poems, Harmony, Hard Words. Yes, books full of hard words. Oh dear. We'll have no story hour today, said Miss Swamp. Keep your mouth shut, said Miss Swamp. Sit perfectly still, said Miss Swamp. And if you misbehave, you'll be sorry, said Miss Swamp. The kids in room 207 had never worked so hard. Days went by, and there was no sign of Miss Nelson. The kids missed Miss Nelson. Maybe we should try to find her, they said. Some of them went to the police. Detective McSmog was assigned to the case. He listened to their story. He scratched his chin. He said. I think Miss Nelson is missing. Detective McSmog would not be much help. Other kids went to Miss Nelson's house. The shades were tightly drawn, and no one answered the door. In fact, the only person they did see was the wicked Miss Viola Swamp coming up the street. If she sees us, she'll give us more homework. They got away just in time. Maybe something terrible happened to Miss Nelson. Maybe she was gobbled up by a shark, said one of the kids. But that didn't seem likely. Maybe Miss Nelson went to Mars, said another kid. But that didn't seem likely either. I know, exclaimed one know-it-all. Maybe Miss Nelson's car was carried off by a swarm of angry butterflies. But that was the least likely of all. The kids in room 207 became very discouraged. It seemed that Miss Nelson was never coming back, and they would be stuck with Miss Viola's swamp forever. They heard footsteps in the hall. Here comes the witch, they whispered. Hello, children, someone said in a sweet voice. It was Miss Nelson. Did you miss me? She asked. We certainly did, cried the kids. Where were you? That's my little secret, said Miss Nelson. Okay, be sketch. How about a story hour? Oh, yes, cried the kids. Miss Nelson noticed that during story hour, no one was rude or silly. What brought about this lovely change? She asked. That's our little secret, said the kids. Back home, Miss Nelson took off her coat and hung it in the closet, right next to an ugly black dress. When it was time for bed, she sang a little song. I'll never tell, she said to herself with a smile. P.S. Detective McSmog is working on a new case. He is now looking for Miss Viola Swamp. The end. That's a great book. It's always great. There really needs to be more of those books. I think there's only like 3. I did Miss Nelson Has a Field Day back in May, I think. I think that's when I did it. All right. So, Bible story for today. Be great for our kids coming to Bible Quest tomorrow night, because we're going to be talking about God's chosen people, the Israelites. And this was their part of their journey to the promised land that we've been talking about. It's called God Makes a Way. And grown-ups in your Bible, that's in Exodus 14 through 15. Moses and God's people escaped out of Egypt and into the wilderness. They didn't know the way, but God knew the way, and He would show them. I will bring you to a new home, a special land, God promised them. I will look after you. I am with you. God sent a big cloud for them to follow, a pillar of smoke stretching up to the sky. It moved in front of them, and they walked and were shaded from the blazing heat of the day. And when it was time to rest, it stopped. All through the cold desert nights, it kept them warm, glowing like fire. God led His people through the desert to the edge of a great sea. They were just wondering how to cross it when suddenly they heard a terrible thundering and pounding. It sounded almost like horses' hooves. They shaded their eyes to look back and screamed. It was! Pharaoh and his army were coming to get them. Pharaoh had changed his mind. Again. Get my slaves back, he screeched and charged out into the desert after them with 600 of his fastest horsemen and every single chariot in Egypt. What if somebody needed to go to the store? Like, there wouldn't be any more chariots. Not cool, Pharaoh. What were God's people going to do? In front of them was a big sea. It was so big there was no way around it, but there was no way through it. It was too deep. They didn't have any boats, so they couldn't sail across, and they couldn't swim across because it was too far and they would drown. And they couldn't turn back because Pharaoh was chasing them. They could see the flashing swords now, glinting in the baking sun, and the dust clouds and the chariot after scary chariot surging toward them. So they did the only thing that was left to do. Panic! We're gonna die! They shrieked. Don't be afraid, Moses said. But there's nothing we can do, they screamed. Yeah, God's people acted like this a lot. God knows you can't do anything, Moses said. God will do it for you. Trust Him and watch. But there's no way out, they cried. God will make a way. Another minute, and it would have been over. But then the strangest thing happened. God made the pillar of smoke move. It moved behind His people and hid them from the Egyptians. Then God sent a strong east wind to blow all night long. It blew on the water of the big sea. It blew it to the left and it blew it to the right until it blew it into two towering walls of water right there and right through the middle of the sea. A muddy pathway opened up, and God's people walked across on dry land. Hooray! When the Egyptians tried to follow, the walls of water crashed down on them and swallowed them up. God's people were safe. They laughed and danced and sang and thanked God. When there had been no way out, God made a way. Many years later, once again, God was going to make a way where there was no way. From the beginning, God's children had been running from Him and hiding. God knew His children could never be happy without Him, but they couldn't get back to Him by themselves. They were lost. They didn't know the way back. But God knew the way, and one day He would show them. The end. That was great. All right. So, next week, I'll be out of town. But don't worry. I have a story time recorded. And I'm going to put it up next week at 7:30. It will be the book that we had a couple weeks ago, Millions of Cats. And it's a great story. So I'm really excited about sharing it with you. So look for that next week around 7:30. And we will go ahead and pick our books for the week after that, which will be October 6th. All right. Here we go. We're picking. Okay. For October 6th, we have Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. Okay. Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. Or Around America to Win the Vote. 2 suffragists, a kitten, and 10,000 miles. So, Cool. Both books I've never heard of or read before, but I saw them at the library and I thought they'd be funny. So, yes, these are for 2 weeks from now. And I look forward to being back on live with you then. And I'll see you next week for Millions of Cats. Bye, friends. Thanks for signing on. See you soon.